welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to have you with us. Wherever you are tuning us in from, we are grateful to have you this episode being brought to you by MillerTech Energy. MillerTech, building premium lithium batteries designed to keep you going all weekend long at the race, whether it is RV, boat, golf cart, whatever it may be, even your off-road lifestyle. MillerTech batteries are backed by a no-hassle 10-year warranty. Why in the world would you want to go anywhere else for your battery? MillerTechEnergy.com is the place to go, and you can use NASCAR 10 for 10% off your order. I am joined on the show once again, as always, by our SWM Media editor, Jacob Seelman. And Jacob, again, as always, it's going to be an action-packed show. We start where we've started at least 2 or 3 other shows this year on the starting line by talking about Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, shocker, right? We're starting at the starting line, and Tyler Reddick recently crossed the finish line to give us a starting line topic. That seems rather appropriate
there you go.
Now, doesn't it? Yeah, again, the most recent chapter of this being Kansas Speedway, where Tyler Reddick and, by association, 2311 Racing have been really, really, really good over the past couple of years at the Cup level. They've now won 4, by the way, of the last 9 Cup races as an organization, with multiple different drivers, including Tyler and Bubba Wallace and the now retired and now Hall of Fame Kurt Busch as well. But Tyler Reddick being the driver in question at this point, that everybody's looking at this guy going, how in the wide world of sports are we supposed to keep him out of victory lane? Because he has now won 5 of the first 9 NASCAR Cup Series races this season. By the way, that's a batting average better than 50%, or 500 for those who are keeping score. And he's become the first driver since Dale Sr., yeah, that guy, some Earnhardt guy, in 1987 to win 5 of the first 9 races of a Cup Series season. This is legendary stuff that we're talking about, and yet, Tom, I still, for whatever reason, see people on social media wanting to be detractors and go, are they really for real? Like, what more do you need to see at this point? Tyler Reddick is making a mockery of the early season for the Cup Series. We're 1/4 of the way through the season, 9 of 36. Tyler Reddick's won 5 on 4 completely different styles of racetracks. Hello, duh.
Well, according to the NASCAR fan base, we're not going to stop them because NASCAR is allowing them to win all these races because Michael kicked their butts in the lawsuit.
What?
So that's apparently what the NASCAR fan base is saying. But, you got to have a conspiracy theory, right? I mean,
there's too many of those going around these days.
Hats.
Golly.
Look, here's the thing. Again, Tyler, now we need to zoom this out. Toyota right now is the one kicking everybody's butt. That was evidenced, at Kansas, because the Toyotas were clearly by a mile the strongest cars at Kansas. There was nobody even close, really.
Kyle Larson led a quarter of the race. That's Larson not nothing.
And honestly, he was about the only one. And I never honestly took him that seriously as part of the race to win. I thought it was going to be Denny Hamlin versus Tyler Reddick. And it turned out slightly that way. We had that last lap mess where Hamlin went back to 4th. But, honestly, I think that Tyler Reddick is really just a facet of, one, Toyota's domination, two, the fact that, I go back to Daytona. We had a big wreck, and he kind of dodged it and just, hit the gas and ended up winning. He didn't win by a ton in Atlanta. I mean, you look at the way that he's winning these races, and it isn't as though he's dominating. Now that doesn't change the results, of course.
No, it doesn't.
But all I'm saying is that anyone who's kind of looking at this and saying, well, Tyler's got something nobody else has, I would more argue right now this is a Toyota thing,
yes,
having something nobody else has. I mean, okay, Larson's been up there. Elliott's had some success. I mean, you've seen some of the Chevys, and once in a while you got the Penske group but look it, for the most part, this has been a Toyota season. We just watched Ty Gibbs win at Bristol. And it happens that way. I mean, we have periods in NASCAR where one manufacturer just gets on a roll. And let's also look at the lineup that Toyota has right now. I mean, everybody at Joe Gibbs is running well. Briscoe hasn't won, but he's certainly had speed. The other guys, have won and have been fast. Chris Bell was fast at Kansas. He just got lucky, and you look at even the lineup that Denny Hamlin's got at 2311. Bubba's running really well this year. And if you look at the results from Kansas, all 4 of the 2311 cars were in the top 15.
Yes,
I mean,
they were.
Good Lord. The only part of Toyota that's not working as well right now is Legacy. And I think they'll get there. They're just still in their kind of rebuilding phase with new management and all that. But look, I just think this is pretty incredible for Reddick. And how do you stop him? You beat him to the finish line. And I do think that eventually, the Chevys are going to catch up. And you'll have tracks, even Talladega's a track where, I mean, let's face it, anybody can win it. That's the next track on the schedule will have been run by the time this show airs. But I don't think this is going to be a whole season thing for Reddick. But right now, just when you think, everybody's inching back up on him in the championship race, he wins another race. So, but I don't know really how many stage points he got. And this is where I think a lot of the other guys need to focus their energy right now is trying to get as many stage points as they can, because I'm telling you, they're going to need them to eat away at that deficit.
Well, and see, here's the problem with that theory, by the way. Tyler Reddick got 16 of a possible 20 stage points. Yeah, he was third in both stages. Okay. And by the way, I want to rebut you a little bit on the Kyle Larson point, because I unlike you, I thought Kyle Larson was going to be a factor, and obviously, as we saw in overtime, was a factor at the white flag. But I mean, Kyle got 19 stage points. He did. He won stage 2, and he was second to Hamlin in stage 1. So
I just never thought at the end of the race that Kyle Larson was going to be in the top 2. I just didn't. I thought it was going to be Hamlin versus Reddick, and that's the way that it was
shaping up until until Cody Ware spun 6 laps down. Yeah, exactly. So I'll add to that real quick a couple of things that stand out to me before we transition into our second starting line topic. Give a nod to Brad Keselowski, who started 21st, very mid-pack, and drove his way all the way up to a 6th place finish. Brad has been, if he could ever start qualifying better, he would win some races this year, I do believe. Like you said, all 4 of 2311's cars were in the top 15 at the end. I thought this was a very good race for Riley Herbst, who really, I thought, ran better and had some more speed at times than a 14th place finish exhibited. And then there's the guy who finished just ahead of Riley Herbst, who is the subject of our second starting line bullet, who got points in both stages, didn't necessarily get the finish he wanted, led laps over the course of the day, but yet has been in the conversation more here of late for, well, shall we say, being a little crazy behind the wheel, because topic number 2 is Hurricane Hocevar, otherwise known as Carson. And the conversation, Tom, you and I have talked about this behind the scenes for several weeks. We'll now ask the question on the screen, because he's nodded with the regular Chili's paint scheme to the black and silver Goodwrench colors. They did the Wrangler throwback at Darlington a few weeks ago. And it's got everybody wondering, is Carson Hocevar really trying to be the modern era Dale Earnhardt Sr.? And can we even have any vestige of saying that he's the modern era Intimidator? Ow, my heart pained me. Just saying that. I guess you know where my answer's going, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, look, when you start hearing broadcasters use those kind of terms, and hear media people talk about them that way, I don't really understand what they're comparing. Okay, I think the world of Carson. I think Carson has a ton of upside potential. Has he gotten smoother over the last several weeks? Yes, he's dialed it back just a little. And what a shock. He's finishing races well. Hey, I think Carson is going to be a really solid Cup driver. Okay, now, is he ever going to even begin to approach Dale Earnhardt's stature in the sport? No. Come on, people. No. I mean, okay, the Intimidator. What are you comparing? That he'd drive through you to win a race? Well, wait a minute. How many other drivers have we seen in Cup that will drive through you to win a race, right? I mean, watch a Cars Tour race. That's how you win those for the most part. You drive through the guy in front of you. I mean, this is Southern racing, period. I don't understand the comparison. I realize that Carson's brash, he's bold, he's kind of unpolished still, but I don't see, I mean, the Intimidator, who is he intimidating? What he's done is he's made a lot of people mad in recent history. I don't think he's intimidating anybody. Do you?
No, I don't. And I want to add to that discussion that Dale Earnhardt being the Intimidator was as much about persona as it was about results. And Carson hasn't built that persona about him, and I don't think anybody sees that persona in him. At least I don't personally. I think Carson needs to try to be his own person, his own driver, and lean more into that than try to hearken to that era past of Dale Sr. Because I don't know, like Dale had the look too, and I mean I don't know that you can. And look, like you said, I love Carson to death too, but Carson's about Carson's about 6'6" and skinny as a beanpole. You're not intimidating anybody like that. Like I said, I love the kid, but be your own guy in the sport. Don't try to be somebody else. Is all I'm saying.
I think Carson is doing that. I think this is a discussion that has come externally. I mean, people are just talking, and I think because he kept driving into people or whatever, they were it's like, but the only way that I could compare the two that makes any sense is when Dale first came into NASCAR, he wasn't there to make friends, right? He didn't make a lot of friends.
No.
He was kind of aloof. He wasn't really good with media. Carson's sort of the same in some of that. He doesn't have a lot of driver friends. He's I don't want to call him a loner because I don't know that that's the case, but it seems like he prefers that, or has a very small group of friends. But other than that, I don't see it. Dale was a farmer during the week, feeding chickens and fishing and all of that. I don't know that Carson matches that. I think Carson's got a really cool personality, honestly, and I think it's authentic. And I don't know that Dale ever rode a Dente. So I just don't see how you compare the two.
Fair enough. Third and final starting line point here, leaning into the high limit versus the outlaws narrative here of late, and the back and forth and the barbs and the fan barbs, all that stuff. We got our first real, true taste of that during the most recent World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car race at Tri-State Speedway in Hobstadt, Indiana. Sunshine, otherwise known as Tyler Courtney, and the Clausen Marshall Racing 7BC dropped in to say, hey, let's see what we can do against the self-proclaimed best sprint car drivers in the world, and they walked out with a win against the self-proclaimed best sprint car drivers in the world. Tyler beat Buddy Kofoid, the hottest thing on planet Earth right now other than Tyler Reddick, heads up in a last lap battle, though there was contact, and both admitted to that, to win, and becomes the first high-limit regular to walk into an Outlaws show and walk out with the trophy. Do you make any of this going back to how bad your defending high-limit champion Rico Abreu was at Peevely, Missouri a couple weeks ago versus how good a guy like Tyler, who was out half the year with a back injury last fall, comes in and he says, yeah, I'll take the Outlaws lunch money, thanks.
I don't make a lot of it, and I'll tell you why, because I watched Sunshine, and so did you, in Florida earlier in the spring, and it was obvious that he was going to be a winner during the season. He came back very strong. I think he's ready to do some contending here. And as far as Rico goes, I mean, this is a whole new situation, and I think it's going to take some time. I don't know that you can really compare the two. And the only thing I'll say is that I think people always want to have that back and forth about, which has more talent or better drivers. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned, it's equal. Maybe there's some bigger names in high limit because Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet when he races. But look at this. I don't think one is less competitive than the other. And I think if they do more crossovers, I think you'd see it about even up, basically. I think it depends on the track and the condition and all of that. But any of these teams that are top in either high limit or the World of Outlaws, I feel like any of the top 4 or 5 teams in either series could go over to the other one and be contenders.
I will probably get blasphemied out of the social media verse by saying this out loud on this show. I don't really care. This is the moment, like one of these, like where you see Tyler Courtney drop in and beat the Outlaws. This is where, as a sprint car racing fan, I despise the Outlaws platinum contracts that prevent their drivers from going out and dipping into the other field more often. They get a couple, I think it's 4 total shows throughout the year where they can dip elsewhere. Come on, guys. If they've signed up to run the whole season, that whole "we won't let you run much of anywhere else" clause is stupid. Wake up and if you truly believe your guys are the best guys, let them go out and prove it whenever they want. And that's all I'm going to say about that subject.
100% agree. As long as they honor their commitment with your series, it shouldn't matter what they do when your series is not racing. I've never thought that was a good idea, and I think it's very arrogant, honestly. And it's I think it's about time that went away. With that, we are going to step aside. When we come back, we've got a couple of different voices that you're going to hear from tonight, and one of them went from NASCAR to sprint cars the other day, and that was Gavin Bochelle, and he's coming up next right after this.
MillerTech builds lithium batteries for RVs, golf carts, boats, and off-grid life. Reliable power, long lifespan, and a 10-year warranty. That's why I trust MillerTech. MillerTech, powering your adventure.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point. either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the show as we move into our America's Racers segment. We continue along the lines where we left off in the first segment, talking about sprint cars. And Jacob, Kerry Madsen.
Oh my gosh, the Aussie did a thing during the Diamond Classic Saturday for the High Limit Sprint Car Series, which, by the way, was the only major act in town for the Saturday night set because the Outlaws got pushed to Sunday at Tri-State due to weather. It worked out well, honestly, because it let everybody focus on one big event one night, one big event the next night. And yes, Kerry Madsen and Vermeer Motorsports, not that the Vermeer team hasn't been good at times with Hunter Schurenberg over the last couple years, but Kerry Madsen's not a spring chicken anymore. Everybody wondered, well, does he still got it? Yeah, he still got it. In his 30th try, he becomes a high limit winner. And how about this top five? You got an Aussie in Kerry Madsen win the race. Pennsylvania's Cy Lynch was second. Oregon's Tanner Holmes was third, and a pair of Okies in Dason Pursley and Hank Davis were fourth and fifth, respectively. Kerry won the dash, started on the pole, led it all the way. Sounds easy. If you watched it on Flow Racing, it was not that easy. He had to work for it through traffic a couple times. And Sealman Stat of the Week time, by the way. I'll go ahead and get this in here. Okay. Not only did Kerry Madsen become the milestone 25th different driver to win a high-limit feature, he surpassed the guy you mentioned before the last break, Brad Sweet, who helped co-found High Limit, as the oldest feature winner in High Limit history, setting the mark at 55 years, 4 months, and 15 days old. I'm not sure if that's a record you want to boast about, being the oldest guy to win a feature, but hey, Kerry Madsen did it. Why not? And more power to him, Tom. I loved it.
I think it's great. I mean, I think you boast about it. I mean, to be able to still be competitive and, you know, kind of in your prime at 50.
In your mid-50s, yeah.
It says a lot. And, you know, it's always fun to see something like that because, you know, it gives us something more than just a guy winning a race to go with the story, right? And so, you know, I think it's great. Kerry's been around a long time. We all know he's capable of winning in any car he gets in. If the car is, he can. It's certainly not a fluke.
No, not at all.
So happy to see that for sure.
I was. And, you know, further back in what was a 40-plus car high-limit field at Wheatland, Missouri, by the way, Lucas Oil Speedway, we got to see the debut, and our SWN hub actually got the extended story ahead of this with Gavin Boschel talking about the young 18-year-old from here in North Carolina that did, in fact, make his high-limit debut and his first 410 sprint car start at Lucas Oil Speedway right after he ran the ARCA race at Kansas Speedway earlier in the day. One went better than the other, as Gavin openly admits. He ran fourth in the ARCA race, ended up in the C-Main in the sprint car side Saturday night. But what I loved about this, Tom, and we'll hear from him in just a second, he is hooked up with Wayne Pretty, Corey Day's crew chief from the past couple years in High Limit when Corey has won all sorts of races. And he had been out of a sprint car for 2.5 years. This was a, comeback that he knew was going to be tough, but Gavin was excited for the challenge, took the challenge, and he didn't tear anything up. And as you'll hear in a minute, I think that might have been what he was most proud of, that he went in, he remembered how to drive it well enough, and he said, we're going to figure this out.
Well, let's hear from him, and then we'll wrap it up.
Gavin Boschel hopping in post High Limit Racing debut. And I know, I'll just start with the obvious, Gavin, because I know on paper, Saturday at Lucas Oil Speedway was not necessarily what you hoped it would be, but I'm curious for you to, now that you've been through it, evaluate the learning process of that first night. And I think the biggest question to that is, what was it every bit as difficult from a competition standpoint as you expected it would be?
Well, I mean, obviously you go in there like not expecting that. I was terrible. I was surprised on how bad I was. So I'm a little bit rusty, but no, it was. I expected, just my main thing was just to go and make laps. Like I wasn't expecting to do overly great. You obviously go in hoping to win, but that we got to limit our expectations. So I expected, just to make laps, run laps. Unfortunately, we blew a tire in the heat race and ended up hitting the wall. So that kind of sucked. So we had to start in the back of a C. We weren't running any good in the heat race anyways, but it would have definitely been helped to get more laps and stuff like that. But no, having Knoxville rained out and Jacksonville and all those other races and having like 40 something cars there also didn't help my case. But no, we're just gonna do some testing, run some other stuff. It's just gonna take a little bit for me to get back comfy, and this is just for obviously I want to go out and be the best I can, and this sprint car racing also helps me be a better race car driver. So and I'm just having fun with it. I love dirt racing. I've always loved it, and to be able to have the blessing to go back and do it again is just awesome. So I'm really enjoying it. Just kind of love the process of it. So yeah, I'm sure I'll get back in the groove and start clicking it off soon. But it's gonna take a little bit.
I was going to say, remind me, Saturday night was your first major dirt race of any kind in 2 years, I think it was?
Yeah, I think it's like 2.5 years since I've ever sat in a sprint car. That was my first ever time sitting in a 410, so not much to expect. Yeah, I'm just so grateful to be able to do it again.
All right, so obviously had the experience of kind of putting this deal together with Wayne Pretty and Andrew and that bunch back at Chili Bowl. You kind of told me that story going into the weekend, so now I'm curious, what was the process like for you actually getting to work with Wayne at the racetrack for the first time and just really having that wealth of knowledge to lean on in, full competition, let's go out and do this, and he's trying to, interpret and figure out what I'm telling him kind of mode?
Yeah, I love those guys. They're, Wayne's awesome, Andrew's awesome. Wayne, I'm basically all ears now, so I'm taking in anything he gives me, throughout the night. He was telling me, he said, don't quit yet. So I told him, don't worry about me, I'm fine. So, no, it was fun. I love those guys. They're awesome to work with, so I'm sure. The drivers got to get better. So, I'll work on it. It's just going to take some time. It's just I never thought that I was telling my dad and my guy Blaze on the way home. I was like, man, I never thought I'd be behind in the dirt world and ahead in the pavement world. It's just like words that would never come out of my mouth. My whole career of racing, I would never think that I'm more so comfortable on the pavement than I am on the dirt. So it's definitely different, but no, I'm excited to kind of keep one foot ahead of the other and keep working hard at it. I love dirt so much, and I love sprint car racing. So, yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the year and the summer when we start racing a lot.
Talk driver for a minute. Where was the biggest aspect or the biggest side of things when you got in the seat and got going Saturday night that you felt like, you mentioned you were rusty. I mean, where did you feel like was the biggest, I got to get this back? Was it skill set? Was it just getting the feel back? Because anybody that has watched both dirt and pavement knows, I mean, two totally different worlds, and you can't even drive remotely the same.
Yeah, so the midget, I obviously ran a lot more midget races than I did sprint car races, but when I always jump from the pavement to the midget, I feel like, I don't know, it's just kind of second nature. I don't know why. I just always have been better, like, just jumping from the pavement to the midget. But when I was doing the whole transition of the pavement to the sprint car to the midget, I kind of had that all in a loop. So now having the sprint car away from it for a while and it was just the midget and the pavement and some of the little micro stuff here and there. And then just running Chili Bowl once, it didn't feel as like I just was not. I wasn't not comfortable. Just like the track was really technical, so it was just really hard to kind of get a feel for obviously the speed and kind of slowing everything down, just slowing my hands down, just like the whole entire just feel wise, racing against other people, the track changing, just kind of stuff that I haven't felt yet in a 410, and it's a lot different. A midget, or a 360, I'd say too. So I don't know. It just feels it was a lot harder for me to kind of translate everything that I've learned over the years of my dirt career. It's a whole different game. It's like going from super late models to like an Xfinity car, or O'Reilly car. So that's kind of how I.
When you kind of take the day as a whole, if I circle back a second to earlier in the day, I mean, the ARCA race wasn't bad. You went out, ran top 5, arguably, had a shot when you guys lined up on that final restart. You knew what you were getting into then, leaving from that and coming to high limit. But as a driver, is there at least a sense of, okay, I can come in here with half a shot of momentum because we ran good?
Yeah, for sure, that stuff is, I will give, the sprint car, like saying it's not serious, but, that's like my end goal is to be in, I'm working hard to go to the next level and race on Sundays. That's my end goal. And, the sprint car is helping me obviously just get better as a driver. You see Larson and Bell and all these guys that are doing this, and they're obviously good at both aspects. So I have to be the best to race on Sundays. So no, I ran good, I didn't win, had a shot at it, I thought we were really, really fast, had a really, really good car. That last caution, I had a really good run on the backstretch, and then that caution came out and Jack wrecked, so that kind of sucked. But, I went, we left, it was a good day. You're carrying obviously a high, like you ran good. So I wasn't really expecting to, put myself down. I'm very hard on myself, too, and, I'm competitive with this stuff. So it was kind of hard for me to, hey, this is just, I knew I wasn't going to be, go and set the world on fire. I was I had to keep it real. So I was it was definitely, we just kind of had some fun. Obviously it wasn't so much fun, but just getting laps and, just being back in the dirt stuff is awesome.
Welcome back from the interview. And of course, G Money, as they call him, Gavin is a talented racer on either surface, Jacob, and really insightful interview there. Good to hear him again. Haven't talked to him in a little while, but he's been fighting the Southern late model fight for the last year or two, and great to see him back on dirt because I know he really has fun with that.
He wants more on the dirt as well going forward. 30 to 35 races on the dirt for the 2026 season, which is going to be really exciting for those of us that love seeing him on the dirt. Definitely look forward to that. Real quickly, before we go to our final break, one more on the dirt side. Jonathan Davenport ran the gauntlet. Literally over the weekend. He won 2 of 4 races at one of yours and my favorite racetracks, Bulls Gap Speedway in Tennessee.
Speedway.
Yep, the challenge from the promoter, Vic Hill, win a prelim, win the finale, bank $100,000 plus. He won $137,000 in dirt late model action over the course of the previous week. When you consider RTJ, Ricky Thornton, Mike Marlar, Brandon Overton, Chris Madden, both Fergusons, Carson and Chris, Devin Moran, Jimmy Owens, Kyle Strickler, that's a field and a half just right there. JD doing it again. They call him the Fast 49 for a reason, and he proved it.
Yeah, it was unbelievable to watch that. He really does do a great job in the late models, and I love these outlaw kind of shows like Vic Hill promotes. Bulls Gap's a great speedway, so that was very cool to see that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, it's last lap time, and we hear our second interview of the evening with a rising young lady racer. Back with more after this.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point. either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
MillerTech builds lithium batteries for RVs, golf carts, boats, and off-grid life. Reliable power, long lifespan, and a 10-year warranty. That's why I trust MillerTech. MillerTech, powering your adventure.
Welcome back to the show. As we head into our last lap segment, we head over to Millbridge Speedway to hear from one of the rising young lady racers in the area. And this is a young lady who is from the area here in North Carolina, and she just does a great job, whether she is running an outlaw kart or whether she's running a micro sprint. Emily Dietrich is her name, and I had a chance to catch up to her after she won this past Wednesday night in one of her features. Here is Emily. Post-race at Millbridge, Emily Dietrich, winner of tonight's SKE Intermediate class, first win in the Spring Series. Won twice in the Winter Series here this past winter, but first time in this series getting a win. Emily, walk us through your night and how things went, because you ran more than one class.
Well, we had intermediate qualifying first, and I felt pretty good at it. And then as soon as I came off the track, I knew I did good because I felt good on the track. And then for the restricted qualifying, a car came off, like I was already full throttle, and a car pulled on the track as I was still going, so I had a lift for them, and then I just wrecked up my whole qualifying. And so I started in the back of the heat for the restricted, and I just couldn't get past the back cars.
Yeah.
And I started in the back of the feature and just rode around there, ended up finishing 5th. And then in the intermediate, I started pole of the first heat race, which helped a lot, but then I went too low and I let the car on my outside get the grip around the middle, and they just got around me and I finished 2nd. But the car that won my heat won last week, so they had to start last feature. And so I got the start outside pole, and the grip was right around where I needed to be, and so I just took off and led from there.
Did a great job. How does it feel to finally get a win in the Spring and Summer Series?
It feels really good, considering that I went from back-to-back wins to back-to-back flips.
Yeah, yeah, that's never a good thing, is it? Now, how old are you?
14.
And you're from where?
North Carolina.
Now, well, what part?
Mooresville.
Mooresville. Okay, so you're local. So talk a little bit about what got you interested in racing in the first place.
Well, my granddad raced, which got my dad into it. So my dad raced go-karts all the way through modifieds, and then when I was around 7 or 8, I had been talking about wanting to race for years, and so my dad finally realized, well, if she's going to start racing, we need to start racing now. So he sold all of his modified stuff, got me a go-kart, and we just haven't stopped racing since then.
That's awesome. So your dad retired, basically, to support you and your efforts.
Yeah.
And now here you are in Victory Lane at Millbridge. So what is your career goal with racing? Do you want to take this farther, or what are you looking to do?
I want to race 410 sprint cars.
Wow, that's an ambitious goal.
Yeah.
Now, do you spend time on iRacing and trying to do the sim, or?
Yeah, I spend a good amount of time on iRacing.
Okay, so that's kind of now. Anything else that you do to prepare for racing here each week?
Work on my cars a lot.
That's important, isn't it? Knowing
Yeah.
how the cars work. Okay, so here's the most important question, because you can't do any of this by yourself. So who makes it all happen? Who you want to thank?
My mom and dad, Prototype Fabrication, Pace Chassis, Bundy Bill, Adams Performance, SRI, Stock Car Steel, Chasm Racing, Chasm Safety Equipment, and Goldage Garage Doors, and so many more.
Emily Dietrich, great job tonight. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Emily does a fine job as part of Kyle Beatty Racing's family of drivers, SKE Chassis at Millbridge Speedway. Good to see her get the win. And it is now time, Jacob, one of my favorite parts of the show, the MillerTech Power Performance Award.
That is right. We are deciding the MillerTech Power Performer of the previous weekend, and we put 4 candidates out on social media, Tom, going into this. Tyler Reddick off the Cup side. Duh, how could you not put him in this? Kerry Madsen from High Limit. We talked about Jonathan Davenport, and the only one we haven't talked about yet, Cody Swanson, who led all 100 laps of the 500 Sprint Car Tour non-wing pavement opener at Anderson Speedway in Indiana over the weekend, were our 4 that we put up. The fan voting response was Tyler Reddick, 48%, Kerry Madsen, 35%, JD got 2%. We must not have hit on all them dirt late model fans this past week. And
No
Cody
love for
Swanson,
Jonathan
yeah.
Davenport.
Cody Swanson, 15%. Are you agreeing with the fans and going with Tyler Reddick, or are you wanting somebody else here?
Well, I mean, I think it's hard not to go with Tyler Reddick, to be honest. I mean, I think if you look at the body of work, but, any one of these 4 are worthy candidates, Jacob, but I think I would agree in this case with the fans and would give it to Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, I think we're unanimously agreeing with the fans here, and Tyler Reddick will be the MillerTech Power Performer of the week and get the MillerTech Power Performance Award. Although I have to give a nod to Alex Pillow as well. We had room for 4 in our poll, but Alex Pillow didn't dominate Long Beach. That was actually Felix Rosenquist, who started on pole and led about 2/3 of the race. Pillow and company, though, got it right on pit road when it mattered, and then he did the rest after the race went green to the end following the final restart at lap 61. Are you anointing him with the title now, Tom? Has the news desk called it?
Yeah, the news desk called him as the 2026 IndyCar Series champion. Now that he has the points lead, the news desk also has forecasted he will win the championship in 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030 to start the new decade. I mean, what are you going to do with him? And here's the thing, I don't for 1 second believe that Alex Pillow ever doubted he was going to win that race. I think he allowed Felix Rosenquist to lead all those laps. There is no lap money. It's not like in some short track races where you get a 6-pack of beer or something for leading every lap. So he waited. His pit crew did what they needed to do, put him in the lead. Goodbye. I mean, I just don't see how he's going to win a lot of races this year.
22 of 103 now. That's 1 in 5 IndyCar races Alex Pillow wins.
And 11
of the last 22. That's 50%. Yeah, ridiculous
statistic, and a great way to end the show. And we're looking forward to next week already. We hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks again to MillerTech and our other sponsors. And we are excited to be back with more next week. Until then, for more great content, head on over to steeringwheelnation.com, or you can go to @the SWN Media on any of the social platforms and catch content as well all week long. Great stories, Inside Groove Show coming out this week as well. Until next time, I'm Tom Baker for Jacob Seelman. So long.